one of the first opportunities that we had a chance to work together was when President Barack Obama was coming to speak at Intel, and they were looking for an employee to introduce the President of the United States. And my name made it into the hat of the 3 people, possibly in the entire company, that could do this.
Anytime that you're in a position to look at where you are and how you can make that situation better, you'll bring the people with you.
Looking into this new era of AI that we're in, what gets you either excited about it, but also what are some of the challenges that you've been seeing with the experience that you've built, not only in the tech sector, but with your doctorate, that we should just be a little bit more aware of today?
I don't think AI will take our jobs, but the person that has a willingness to be curious about AI and engage in AI and learn and continuously improve using the AI systems, they could potentially take your job.
Well, welcome back to the Future Human Experience. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, and I am so excited for this episode. I have a wonderful guest, but more importantly, a wonderful friend and a mentor, Barbara Whye. Thank you so much for being on the Future Human Experience.
I'm excited to be here, and I know we're going to have some fun conversations like we always do.
I know, Barb. What has been wonderful about our journey together is how we had a chance to connect, right? I think it just shows how not only community has been important for us, but the work that we get to do. We had a chance to meet after you had sponsored the production of a movie called Girl Rising. And I had heard about your work and about your story, about your passion about the next generation and about community. And someone had told me, you have to go and meet Barb. You have to meet Barbara. She's the person that not only you need in your network, but someone that's going to elevate this important work. And now you've entered this new chapter of your life, more than a decade later that I've gotten to know you, but more than almost 30 years in the tech industry. You get to look back into this wonderful work. But before we get to what you're doing now, let's look back a little bit more into your amazing journey. Tell us a little bit more about the work that you got to do in the tech sector, but more importantly, now you get to look back as someone that's retired from the tech sector. What gets you excited about the work that you had a chance to do and lead for all those years?
Well, first I'd say tech has been and will continue to be just a really good space to learn, fail fast,
Yes,
and really persist. And I think if you think about my career, it's had all of that. I've had just a remarkable opportunity to meet so many amazing, smart people. We set out to change the world. I think we did a pretty good job. We made some dents along the way. And what I would say, if I think about my 35 years in tech, there's just a number of important opportunities that stand out for me. You talked about Girl Rising. It was really about, at that time, 66 million kids who should have been in school, weren't in school. And we wanted to do something about that. We also brought forth many new construction facilities for this company called Intel, this little company called Intel. And I was always excited about the next facility that we would bring to Intel because we were bringing new cultures to the table, new people to the table, new products to the table, and that was always exciting. And then I also had a great stint in the topic that we now know as diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we can certainly talk about that. That the naming convention of that word has changed over time. But at the end of the day, what we were doing was trying to make humanity better, trying to make sure that any person that stepped into any company, particularly the ones where I was responsible for, that they had a fair shot just like everybody else. So I say net for me, career would be just trying to make things a little better. Looking at the current situation and not being stuck in things having to be as they are, but trying to figure out what could be the best way to put our work forward. And that excited me and it excited all of my teams.
And Barbara, now, of course, you're looking back, but I feel like you even had that mentality and that mindset when we're doing the work.
Yeah.
Right? I don't
Absolutely.
think you had to wait for your retirement to acknowledge this, right?
Yeah, I don't even, I think so many people look at retirement as if it's something that you're gonna stop doing things. Even in my dissertation, we referred to retirement as preferment. I would say that the new way of thinking about retirement is really preferment. You are choosing to do what you prefer to do. And I think it's just very empowering. It doesn't have this connotation that you're going into a nursing home when you retire. I mean, there's just a lot of good work. I mean, I think about my life in retirement today. I'm a grandmother, have 2 amazing grandkids. I'm a sibling. My mother is 94 years old. I sit on a public board, so I get to see what's happening with that particular company. And I just completed my dissertation in a topic that I'm extremely passionate about, artificial intelligence. So I know many people are really like to think about like, what's your next? I have so much in my now that I don't even really have to worry so much about the next, because I don't want to forfeit my now by being so fixated on my next, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So I really want people to really concentrate on what you have in your hand right now, and don't be positioned so that you forfeit all the good stuff that you have right now, worried about what may happen next.
So Bar, so with that said, I mean, that message is not only relevant for everyone right now in the workplace, or that are building, for example, in my little business I'm trying to build out too, which you were also extremely influential in as well. I remember how we had, one of the first opportunities that we had a chance to work together was, I don't know if you remember this, was when President Barack Obama was coming to speak at Intel, and they were looking for an employee to introduce the President of the United States. And my name made it into the hat of the 3 people, possibly the entire company, that could do this. And I remember that moment, I get emotional thinking about it, right? Because it was, I mean, well, first off, for clarity, I was not selected to be part of it, but just to be considered for that was just this wonderful validation of folks realizing like, wow, when Eric shares his story in a very authentic way, in a passionate way, it resonates with people.
Yeah.
And that seed was planted that moment. You continue to encourage me after even that moment. And now I get to do that today, right? Around the
Yeah,
world.
that was a wild few days preparing for that event. But I think what that speaks to is when you are putting forth your best, whether you are conscious of it or not, people are always watching. And in this particular scenario, I remember the person, they came to me and like, as I just said to them, I'm like, hey, I have 2 days to get this right. The president is coming, he's bringing a big team. We need the company to be at its best. Do you know anyone, da 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 da, and your name surfaced. So I think it speaks to when you do good work, people observe that, whether they say it or not.
Yeah.
I mean, even I had a situation where I was at a conference in Charleston, South Carolina, and I was on a panel, and there was a gentleman on the panel. He was a little cranky, bless his heart, and he was throwing jabs on the panel, and I was jabbing right back at him, all in fun and jest. And at the end of the panel, this woman came up to me. She worked for 3M. She said, "Hey, my CEO sent me to this conference today to begin looking for successors. And I need to find, people who are internal to the company and people who are external to the company." She said, "I really enjoyed your comments today. I think you would be amazing. Would you be willing to go into a conversation with me?" Absolutely. This lady, from that day forward, she started sponsoring me. She was not even in my company, but she started sponsoring me to do many different things to make me a better person. So you definitely have people always watching what you're doing. And I think anytime that you're in a position to look at where you are and how you can make that situation better, you'll bring the people with you.
And that reminds me too, Barbara, of not only how you do that for others, but then when we see that being done for us, then that means, oh, this is how you're supposed to lead, right?
Exactly.
In this 21st century. I still remember vividly, we'll talk about the Oakland program in a little bit, how that was developed, but there was this one opportunity that we're going to speak in front of Reverend Jackson. And the company was there being represented, and we had our leaders there as well. And so I'm over here just briefing our leaders to be ready to present in front of Reverend Jackson. And the feedback they all gave me was like, "Eric, you know this stuff. You're going to go and do it."
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, but you have these titles, you have these roles. But again, because y'all live in that spirit of, no, like this is a platform that we're able to bring others along, that is how you lead. And I remember that moment very vividly, because it not only gave me validation, again, on the work that you do is always seen, But then it's like, how do you create a platform for others when you get given that opportunity as well?
Yeah, I really think you aren't leading if you aren't caring about others. I mean, that's just case in point. I think when I think about leaderships and leadership styles, the people that have a willingness to own both the wins and the losses, that's an important attribute, I believe, of leadership. I also think those leaders who are willing to not only care about their role, but the people on their team and making sure that they get the development and the spotlight and the confidence building. Like, I think that's an important part of leading. And if you aren't doing that, you aren't really tapping into all the aspects of leadership that can make you grow and also your team grow. My interest in leadership has always been to get people on the team that are better than me, because I have a deep need to be continuously learning. And it does my team an injustice if you aren't bringing on people who are smarter than you, have strengths in areas where you are weak, and have just a deep learning mindset. I think that's what attracted me to being in the line of leadership, growing in the levels of leadership, is because it was never about me. It was always about the work, making the work better, making the people better, and being better humans.
And that's what prepared you even in this era of constant change and constant disruption. If you're going in with the spirit of continuously learning, continuously growing, disruption is going to come and go and just phase in and out. Does that
Absolutely.
resonate? Yeah.
The best leaders today, they learn and unlearn. The best leaders on the planet today are constantly learning and unlearning. Most times you think it's the learning, it's the unlearning. Untying some of that status quo is some of the most difficult things to do as a leader, but it's the most powerful things that you have to do in order to innovate forward.
So Barbara, with that said, you just shared with us again a wonderful accomplishment, which I should have highlighted early on when we started. You finished your doctorate in this wonderful space around artificial intelligence and the intersection with humanity and the human condition. One, share with us a little bit more about how that experience was on getting that. But two, looking into this new era of AI that we're in, what gets you either excited about it, but also what are some of the challenges that you've been seeing with the experience that you've built, not only in the tech sector, but with your doctorate, that we should just be a little bit more aware of today?
Great question. I think pursuing the PhD just fit right in alignment with my need to continuously learn. I was starting to see, even in human resources, some kind of low entry data analytics that we were using to really predetermine where employees would end up. For example, some companies were starting to use data and analytics to decide if an employee was worthy of a retention bonus or not. Other companies were using some of the data analytics, looking at how employees were pursuing jobs online internally as one data point. Also, where maybe that employee was in their pay band, specifically if they were at the latter end of their pay band, combined with looking for jobs internally, they could be at risk for retention. And so being in human resources, I felt like the next evolution of this work was going to be in AI. And that started me on this journey to try and understand what is this artificial intelligence, because many people were really scared of it. So for me, instead of being afraid of it, I wanted to engage in it and really stay curious about, could it make things better? Or was it gonna just really continue to oppress the systems that were already oppressed? And I think my particular PhD topic was really on how do we shape artificial intelligence to really enhance and make the human resources applications better. And what I learned in that PhD, and I wrote 245 plus pages about it, if anyone needs a nap.
There you go, we'll have a link to it.
Yeah, if you need a nap. But, what I learned is it has possibility, but it has to be juxtaposed with the right people and the right data that's shaping those systems. And it can be done if we apply the right thinking up front, the right checklist, bring the right people to the table, and really help people to not have fear about AI, but to really understand that I keep hearing these conversations, will AI take our jobs? Will AI take our jobs? I don't think AI will take our jobs, but the person that has a willingness to be curious about AI and engage in AI and learn and continuously improve using the AI systems, they could potentially take your job.
So with that said, Barbara, those are key learnings that not only are informing us on how we're doing today, but one of the things too that resonate with me a lot is also how do we make sure the right people are in the room? If I'm an employee today up and coming, if I'm a leader trying to make multiple decisions, or even if I'm an employee helping my leaders make decisions, what is your encouragement with the experience that you've built to make sure I'm in those rooms making those decisions, or at least influencing those decisions that are still or they're at least informed by the data, but they're still very human-centered decisions?
I think there are a couple of approaches that I would probably take as an employee or a leader or a manager. First would be engage. And I think that's engaging on your own time. There are several organizations that are offering like free courses right now on AI. So I was like, first engage and get your own point of view on the topic of what it is versus what it isn't. So I think the engagement and just embracing AI, not as the scary thing, but as a thing that's going to be in our future for many decades to come. That would be my first thing. The second thing, as an employee or a manager, I think it could just start with a simple question in your teams. How are we thinking about AI as a team? How should we be thinking about it? And you may want to just have like a workshop or a brainstorming session around just the topic of AI. How can we engage with it? How could it make us better? How could it hurt us? How could it negatively impact the team? Because a lot of times you can get a lot of juice flowing in conversations when people are thinking through, how could AI really mess this up for us? And I think there are some good use cases that are already out there about how AI is showing up in the world. So I don't think you have to dig deep, but I think it really just starts with you have to have the conversation. And I think not only for your teams, but also for our youth. You know, one of my surprise questions for you is, how are we going to engage the youth with AI?
Yeah.
Because we know it's coming.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think the best way that we do it is looking at it from a very optimistic perspective, but also acknowledging exactly what you had said. I love that you had said that also we need to understand the challenges of it, or the areas that could possibly not work for us. And I think sometimes we shy away from that as well. But when we shy away from that, we remove our ability to understand how we could best protect ourselves from that, or understand how to navigate some of those challenges. So I think the way we build positivity into how we embrace new innovation and new technology is understanding those challenges first.
Yeah.
Right? And Nick Badminton, he wrote this book called Facing Our Futures. He talks about how building a dystopian perspective helps you create a utopian future, right? If you're able to acknowledge that and understand that, we're able to bring that into space. So I think when we're talking about how we're engaging our teachers, our parents to bring this into our youth, is understanding, hey, there's a lot of challenges in there. There's anxiety conversations that are being had. There's screen time conversations that are being had. And so how do we first off acknowledge that and understand, hey, this is a reality that's very possible, or if not a reality today? And how do we create the right communities or cultures or practices around there so we could be much more thoughtful about what the future could look like? Because I'm a very glass half full, very similar to you. We're very glass half full type people.
Yeah, we have to bring the other side with us.
Yes, we have to bring the other side with us. But I think that's some have been our best work together, or even the best work that I've seen you not only transform in the tech sector, just the small work that I don't want to demystify the work that we got to do together. I consider it small based on the spectrum of work that you've had a chance to do, Barbara, but you've given me an opportunity to do work with the youth in the big picture of things that you've done, which was extremely impactful. But I think what was great about the work that we got to do together was that you gave us time. Yeah. And I think sometimes when we're talking about bringing people in the room, having those conversations, having those engagements, we're like, okay, we could have an AI solution for our team in 24 hours, right? Or in a week, right? And even when we started the Oakland program, I remember vividly coming back to within 3 months of that program and saying, hey, Barbara, can we take 6 more months to listen? And to be honest with you, I would think almost 80% of executives and leaders that had this great 5-year plan and had this great understanding of how it was going to work, they would have been like, no, this is the plan. Why are you going to deviate from it? But you were willing enough to listen and say, if we need to listen more, let's be much more thoughtful and listen.
Yeah,
and that was huge.
Yeah, and I think because of the acknowledgement that Oakland work was systems work.
Yes.
It wasn't, we were working with an entire system. We had the education system, we had parents we were working with in a system, grandparents was another part of the system, you had the children as a part of the system, you had the corporation as a part of the system, the school district. It was very complex. And so I think my understanding of systems is, a bad system will hurt a good person every time. And that was a famous quote of Edward Demings. He was like an engineer, but like a quality guru. And it's always stuck with me. It was like, a bad system will hurt good people every time. And so Oakland, we were going in with a lot of new innovation, but we were entering into an existing system. And when you're doing systems work, you have to look at your inputs, your outputs, and you have to find a way to make that system better. And sometimes it does take time.
Yeah.
And I call it slowing down to speed up.
Yes.
And that was an example of you taking the additional time to do more listening was actually going to slow us down. But ultimately, it was going to speed up the solutions because we'd done a good job listening. So that's why it was important to me to do that.
Yeah, no, and I'm not only incredibly grateful for that, but that was also an example of how you innovate, how you create long-lasting systems today. Start from the community. Start with having those room and those spaces for folks to come in, have those conversations, listen once, twice, sometimes even 3 times to better understand how we could be of service, either with the product that we're bringing in, the solutions that we want to partner or that we want to co-create with the community in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that was one that Oakland in particular, we had to customize quite a bit there because there are a lot of unknowns. But I think we managed all the complexities with a high degree of finesse and also success. Yes. And I think it's still continuing to do well, which I think is also important. Is you want to go in and do the systems work so that the systems can sustain themselves. And it doesn't change up so dramatically just based on a leadership change. So anytime you're doing any of this deep system level work, you want to make sure that it's going to sustain past you as the leader, which goes back to making sure you take care of the people coming behind you because you need this work to sustain, because you're going to go through constant changes in leadership and differences of opinion. But people love value, and people love when things work well. And most people aren't going to argue against those things, irrespective of the leader.
Yes. Barbara, that perspective of not only what you are, the impact that you're making, but also who you're bringing along with you has not only resonated with me deeply, I've shared that with you privately as well, that I always feel that, we stand in the shoulders of giants, and now it is our time to be shoulders for someone else. With that said, I know, Barbara, that you've been on this wonderful journey for years, and you've had a lot of folks always not only give you great praise and celebration, but also you have a wonderful way of also grounding yourself too, that even though this work could give you all the accolades, all these celebrations, which is great and it's impactful, but you've also found a way on this journey to always ground yourself on the reality of today. And for you, it's been your family. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about why has it been important to always ground yourself when you're doing this important work?
Yeah, I think family has a way of doing that. At the end of the day, irrespective of your titles and success and all those great things, I think a great measure of success is, for me personally, is how well I have done in taking care of my family and also deepening the relationships with my family members. So you know, I'm 8 of 8 kids. I've shared that quite openly and publicly. I happen to benefit from the older siblings and being able to see how they handle challenges and see the changes that their career has gone through, the moves, the disappointments, the positives. And my mother, who's 94, she's always been one to just ground you. You know, she would always remind you of what's really important. And I think what's really important is being great to your community, making sure that you're being an outstanding human being, first and foremost, and really trying to find ways when you gain knowledge to pass that knowledge on to others. That's the kind of community I grew up in. I know that's the community you grew up in. And I think that's what we need more of right now is empathy, helping each other, kindness, sharing information that can make people more informed, more aware, more insightful, and just with the willingness to try and put our best foot forward in everything that we do. I think I share with you the week. It was actually a morning, and you know it was being announced on Twitter. I had no idea about it, but I was being named to Fortune Most Powerful Business list. First time a diversity officer, HR person had been named to this list. So I thought it was a big deal. And I remember sharing it with my family, and my oldest brother was saying, "Oh, that's nothing. Your greatest promotion is going to be retirement." So, you know, even me thinking that was like a really big deal, your family have a way of like humbling you to say, "Hey, you think that's a big deal? Like, this is the really big deal." And I think that's why moving into this preferment space or retirement space that I'm in just felt natural. It was something that I planned for quite some time. Had the opportunity to think through how you wanted it to be, where you wanted it to be, on what terms. And, you know, I would encourage all of us to, you know, to think through these things. We know I recently completed the book, 5 years, the number 5, like how do you want your next 5 years to be? And it just has a humbling way of you doing the math of how many days you have left on this earth. And it can really get you very focused because you want these remaining days of your life to be really intentional, I think focused, met with the right level of humanity, and also grounded in purpose. And I think that's what, you know, that's the way my mother role modeled. That's how she's living out. Like I said, she's now 94 and still quite healthy. And I want to beat her number.
All right. Well, Barbara, thank you so much for not only your leadership and your encouragement. Your mentorship on my journey has been something that I will forever be grateful for, Barbara. With that said, we also like to do something really fun with our guests. I know you already threw in one of the surprise questions, which I think is the first time ever in our episodes that we did. That was really cool. But it's also because you've known me for so many years that you know where you want me and how how we navigate our conversations. With that said, Barbara, do you have another question maybe that you're interested in that maybe will be fun for our audience to hear a story about or my insights on?
So, yeah, I want to ask you how you're thinking about AI. So, one question for you is, what is one of the positive things, because I know you think glass half full like me, what are one of the positive benefits of AI that you're excited about?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent on the future is the premium experience in the future is a human experience. And I feel that as AI becomes much more relevant, as automation becomes something that just becomes part of our everyday lives, how we think about it is now creating a much more thoughtful human experience. And so, for example, I remember vividly, and this is in the back of my head, 10 years ago, I was giving a conversation, because this was Oakland actually. I remember giving a conversation to our Oakland teachers or principals saying, automation is here, right? The competition for tech is no longer just tech. It is cars, it is healthcare, it is retail, it's all these spaces. And technology is just prevalent in all these spaces. So how we develop our next generation is going to matter the most. Now, I remember that conversation 10 years ago. Now, looking back at that, what I could have said differently is automation is here, and how do you create the next generation of a human-centered experience individuals that want to have more of a human connection is going to be now premium, right? Because now I could automate tasks that might have taken me several hours in my workplace, now probably takes me a few minutes. Therefore, now this space of creativity, this space of service to my customers or to my employees is now it's a canvas that's not even been painted yet. Right. And I think that's super cool. And that's where, but I also see that's where we struggle a lot, right? It's like, wait, Eric, but what do you mean? Like, I've been doing this job for 10 years this way, and now this thing could just do it in 2 minutes, then what am I gonna do? Right. And the question now we need to, instead of asking ourselves that, is what are you gonna, or be concerned about how this is gonna disrupt you, is like, yeah, what can you do now with the next, X amount of hours you have in the day? What would you have wanted to do? Now that you know all this insight is done, how is that outcome going to change now because of that? And that for me has been really cool.
And I think more workshops. Like I can envision, a day workshop where you bring academia, tech, churches, parents, and our seniors together to start this dialogue about AI. One of the things specific to AI that worries me as I think about my mom, she does use an iPad, but she didn't really spend a lot of time in the digital footprint based on her age group, right? And so all of that information that's housed in their brains are maybe captured somewhere in somebody's notebook. Right? Because AI is going to be augmenting data and learning from data that's there, right? So if that generation information isn't there, how are we going to get it at the ages that they are now, short of having some type of workshops where we can bring them together? So we may want to have like a senior AI workshop to start doing some of the data dumps from those individuals. But I think until we really engage in this topic and take away some of the fear, that it will be at that point where it will become even more powerful. And even in the human resources applications, AI could be better than some of the humans just because of our biases, if it was trained correctly. I mean, you've been exposed to human resources processes where you see some people that get promoted with a less than stellar rating than other people that have like stellar ratings year after year. Could AI catch that for us and do a better job than the manager? Because we all have biases and we all have our favorites and we make mistakes and we don't get it right. So I think I would love to see us engaged in those type conversations, because I think AI is not the end all to everything. I think it'll stay in an augmentation stage for some time where it can help augment our thinking in a more objective way, because it's not bringing all of the biases. It's just repeating based on data that is constantly seeing, which right now is also a negative. Because we know the data isn't as good as it could be. So,
well, Barbara, it seems that you have your next task or your next project now. I mean, retirement didn't last that long then.
Preferment. I'm doing what I prefer to do, and I do have my preferment topic.
Well, Barbara, with that said, how can people connect with you, stay connected with you, share with us?
I'm on LinkedIn, and you can find me out there, Dr. Barbara Whye.
Awesome. Barbara, thank you again so much for your leadership, your mentorship, your leadership in our community. Like I shared with you, when we celebrated you, you were the shoulders for all of us, and now it's our turn to be shoulders for the next generation. Thank you for teaching us how to be shoulders for others. and we're on to continue to build the future of the human experience. Thank you again for being with us today.
Very welcome. I'm super excited for you, and thank you for being a good student.
Hey everyone, this is Eric, the host of the Future Human Experience. The reason why this podcast was created was to be a platform for others to really bring these conversations to life. So if you're enjoying this content, please like and subscribe. It will really help our channel and expose these ideas for others. Thank you.